like there's quite a lot of pressure in this talk. I didn't expect a keynote single track talk, but well, let's have a go. So my name is Jonathan Riddell. You might remember me from my previous talk here in 2003. Anybody there? Oh, well done, well done. This is apparently still on the UK UG website, and apparently I make websites for Edinburgh Scouts or something. In the decade since, I spent quite a lot of time working for a company called Canonical. We make a project called Ubuntu, and that shipping is trying to get world domination with Linux, which hasn't quite happened yet, at least not on the desktop. But time to try new things, see what happens. And I've been doing this for most of this time as part of the KDE project. KDE is 20 years old, so that's pretty incredible that an open source project should be that old and still a very thriving community. But some of our practices are still 20 years old. They haven't changed in those 20 years, which is strange, because we were at the forefront of creating a nice user experience for Linux using new techniques, collaborating over the internet, and yet a lot of how we build that software collaborating over the internet hasn't changed so much. Anybody know if my microphone is working?
It's fallen down.
Yeah. That's my chin. One, two, 1, 2.
The recorder is in your pocket as well.
Yes. Did I skip a slide? So that's KDE there. This was in Berlin, our conference last year. Really impressive venue. Really, one of the nice things about KDE or many open source projects is gives you an excuse to go to a really nice venue somewhere around the world, meet lots of interesting people, see interesting places. This is together with VLC, the Video Land people. You can see them with their parking cones on. Free Software Foundation Europe were there. Qt developers were there as well. And we're a community of happy, fun people. Come join us. We're the original and the best free software end consumer community for Linux and other operating systems. And you might know KDE by its flagship product, which is the Plasma desktop. That's what we started doing, and that's still the flagship from that we produce, is a Linux desktop. And it has the mantra of being simple by default, powerful when you need it. So it, by the default setup, looks pretty plain and easy. You've got a start menu there in the Windows 95 tradition, clock and system tray. So you can put this in front of any user and they'll understand what's going on. They'll know how to use it. But you can customize it in any different way. So if you want to play with all your different widget themes and you want to have bouncing balls on the desktop, that's great. By default, it's simple, and also you can lock it down. There's the kiosk technology, which allows large enterprisey customers who want their users to not have so much control. It can be shut down. So it covers a vast range of use cases. It's written in Qt, which is Qt, the widget library, and specifically it's written in Qt Quick, which is their technology for making software that works very nicely on mobile phones with swooshy, slidey, zoomy kind of stuff. So it has that modern feel to it. It's also lightweight, so while it has nice accelerated graphics effects, the windows have shadows and transparency and so forth. It degrades nicely if your hardware doesn't support that kind of effect. So it works on an Odroid or a Raspberry Pi just as well as it does on your desktop. So that's our desktop, Plasma. And in order to make that, we have another project, KDE Frameworks, and that provides programming libraries for other applications written in Qt. So this is 50, 60 different libraries that provide features that all our programs often use, such as archiving. You can read zip files with it, hardware detection or interacting with the hardware, audio playing, the kind of stuff that you need on end-user consumer software, but which isn't already built into Qt. But because Qt is a open source project, an awful lot of what we do, we just work directly with Qt, because that's much better to go to the source. and so a lot of contributions to Qt will come from KDE, and they'll be then available to all their users immediately. This is available to all their users, LGPL, everyone can use it. But for some reason, a lot of companies, big use case that Qt has now is cars, BMW and such like use it in their user interface, and they for some reason don't like LGPL because they're weird. But the stuff that goes directly into Qt, they're very happy to use. So our software gets used in all over the world, as well as obviously WebKit and Blink. So all the web browsers that you use, I even heard Internet Explorer now uses Blink. Is that true? Anybody know? Microsoft uses KDE software? I haven't confirmed that, don't quote me. And we've got a couple of hundred different applications, some of them serious enterprise class applications, some of them just nice, really useful tools. So this application is Krita. That's a painting application. So you can use that to draw images with a number of effects, and it's really professional quality. I've got videos out on the store light there, and just watching the video blows you away with the sheer number of effects and the sheer number of options that artists get for that. It's a very complex tool. You need a lot of self-training to do it, watching the videos, for example. This is KDE Live, which is a video editing application. For some reason, graphical people like to use dark theme. I have no idea why, but they default to a dark theme. Anyway, this is a video editing application, really useful for slicing in the images, maybe for this conference. And this is KDevelop, which is our IDE development environment. Really great if you're editing programs in C++, Ruby, Python. It supports a number of languages really well. So there's a couple of hundred applications that KDE makes, and the scope of our projects continues to grow because we're not we started off making a Linux desktop and related applications. We're now just a community that makes end user applications in an open source friendly way. So this is Plasma Mobile. So we've got a mobile phone operating system. Plasma Mobile uses exactly the same software as Plasma on the desktop, as I'm running here. And because it's written in Qt Quick, it nicely reform factors into a useful user interface for mobile phone form factor. This is J'ai Compris, which is an educational application, and that's got about 50 different school games in it. And that's available on Linux, on Android. You can get it in the Google Store. It's available on Windows. It's available on a number of different platforms. This is KDE Connect. So that's a really nice tool that we often use as a demo for why should I use KDE rather than any other Linux desktop, because it works well with your phone. So if you really want to hack my talk, you can go to my contact details down there, send me an SMS, and it should appear on my desktop here because my phone is talking to the laptop. The tool that I'm using to change the slides around is my Android mobile phone here, and that controls the mouse here because I've set it to, and for today, it's a really useful way to run the presentation. If somebody gives me a phone call, it stops my music on the desktop. So it's that kind of really useful, nice integration that once you're used to it, you don't want to get rid of it. Wiki to Learn. We've got a wiki project that makes academic textbooks. They write textbooks, so nothing to do with our original desktop software, but they want to be part of that same community that builds excellent projects. And while we haven't taken over the world, we have taken over the Shire and the Hobbits, which is better than Sauron managed, right? No, we managed to take over the Shire using our force for good. And also Star Wars and Skull Island, because Weta Digital in New Zealand, they run KDE software on all their servers and all their desktops. So it's really satisfying if you see any behind-the-scenes DVD extra from Weta Digital. Oh yeah, there's my software there that they're using to make these awesome films. We took over Munich. Munich City Council runs our software. We have a good relationship with them. They're actually a rare case where they come into our IRC channels and mailing lists and say, hey, how do I get this working? Or I've got this fix for that. And we go out there once or twice a year. They invite us out for a meeting and a sprint and give us use of their offices and lots of good beer. There's some nasty politics going on there at the moment, but it is politics and it's being done for political reasons. which shows you how difficult this game is, that that there are movements within Munich to get them to move back to Windows, even though that's against normal competition law and everything. And there's no technical reason for them to do so. So hopefully they'll manage to resist that. Where else? Well, Google runs all our stuff. That's really nice. They invite us out occasionally. They can't talk about their stuff, so whenever I talk to somebody at Google, they go, well, I can't tell you, but how do I configure this option, or what's the best way to get this to work? And yeah, they run all our software, which is really pleasing, and also they have good smoothies on their campus. Really nice place to visit. The Canary Islands runs KDE software and all their university computers and their local council, the Comunidad government. Is that a question?
Do you just choose holiday destinations?
It is. Do I just choose holiday destinations? It is a really nice aspect, as I say, of working on free software, that you get to go to interesting places, meet interesting people, sit on the beach, get a suntan, drink some pina coladas, and aprender un poco de castellano. It's great. For example, well, sadly, Brazil, I know nothing about it. I read an article that says Brazil, the biggest Linux desktop rollout in the world, is every single school in Brazil runs KDE. They've never contacted us. They've never invited us out there. I don't know if it's true, not been able to find anybody to confirm it. So if you're going out to Brazil, try and sneak into a school without being arrested and work out what they're running on their computers, because I believe it's our software.
You should be reaching out and asking for some, offering some free technical support.
Yes, but if I had a contact. But here's a cool contact that we do have a good relationship with, which is CERN, discovering the very fundamentals of how our universe works, runs KDE desktops on all their stuff, and I think all their servers as well run the similar technology. And they invite us out, and sadly I couldn't go to the sprint, but a lot of my friends went out there and had a really good, a really productive sprint, both for what they're working on, for working with real users who go, oh, how do we fix this? Can you add that feature? And of course, it's really, really satisfying to know that the universe, we're discovering the universe using our software. So, lots of great success, but not quite taken over the world yet. Had another point on that slide. No, it's not showing. Well, there's a website called, I think, PornTube, which I've never had the privilege of looking at. Has anybody seen that? No? No? I think it's a biology education website. And they're quite popular. And they put out some details at the end of last year about who their users were, or what they knew about their users. And 3% of them are Linux users. So 3% on the desktop is not taking over the world, but 3% of a 2 billion unit market is an awful lot of users, and it's pretty satisfying to have. So who are these users? Well, how do people get our software? They typically, it's kind of word of mouth. People go, you've got this virus on your Windows computer, why are you using that Windows stuff? Install Linux. So they go, all right, fine, I'll install Linux. They download something and work out how to do it, and then they wipe Windows off their user and off their computer, and they get a bit sad and a bit annoyed because they've wiped all their files off their computer. But then the software works for them, and we get happy users. Until they find a bug in the software that they've installed, and they go, Jings, how do I fix this bug? And somebody else goes, yeah, that's fixed, don't worry. Just install the new version. So you get a new version of the KDE Live, this video application. It's got more than 20 issues fixed, so fabulous. How do we install that? And then the user can't work out how to install it, because Linux on the desktop, on the server, you can't just, it's not the same as Windows or Mac where you can just download a binary and install it. You have to wait until your distribution updates it, and then you have to work out how to get the update from your distribution, then you have to install it. And this is very frustrating, makes our users very sad. So we went to LA because like, it's Venice Beach and they got cool surf, and why wouldn't you? Because we just like to have holiday destinations, right? And we surfed the days away, pondering how can we make Linux more accessible to our users? How can we update the techniques that we're using? And when we were surfing here, we realized that when you're surfing, and you need to start out down here, and then you need to do a sudden yoga move. to get up when you're on the wave. And that's really difficult because the wave is, of course, pushing you along at the time. And it would be really nice if the wave stopped and you could get up nicely, and then you could be a cool surfer and you could say, on you go, wave. But that would be stupid because waves don't stop. Waves carry on all the time, and that's good. If waves stopped, that would be really inelegant. And we realized this is a metaphor for what we're doing. When we write our software, we say, OK, everybody, stop now. We're going to have a release. So for 2 weeks, no new features. We only had some bug fixes. And then you had a release. And then it's available, and then somebody else needs to take care of it. And that's inelegant. It would be like if the sea suddenly stopped. But in the last 20 years, software has moved on. Software isn't developed that way anymore. Developed using DevOps techniques where it's continuous integration, continuous deployment, where the same people write the software, run the tests, check it's released, and users can go directly to the people who write the software, and people can test stuff immediately and quickly. And we weren't doing this. So we came up with a project to try and use these new techniques, DevOps techniques, in KDE. And that's the KDE Neon project, and it's working really well. And it's changing a lot of what open source software development does and how it does it. So the way that you do these things, of course, is you set up a Jenkins instance, and the Jenkins instance that we have, you can look at it. It's at build.neon.kde.org, and it builds all of KDE software. We started off with the frameworks, and then we added the Plasma, the desktop. Now we've added all the applications, a couple hundred of them, all the extra applications which get released on a different time cycle. But the important thing is that this is part of the KDE project. So it's not some separate company, separate projects way over there, done by separate people who are unrelated to the people who make the software. It's done by the same people with the same access. So when we say KDE is a community, what we mean by KDE as a community is that if you can commit to make changes over here, you can commit to make changes to every other part of KDE as well. And so anybody who's a member of KDE can log into our Jenkins and can start a build. And so that means that from day one, we had 1,000 developers. And that's awesome. That means that if people want to test, does this build, suddenly they can do that. So we had to add another other technologies to it. We added Aptly, which is the .deb archive, and actually the slide's out of date. I think the project's slowly moving on, so that's really good. And we do cloud computing because cloud computing's come along in the last 20 years. You don't have to beg people for a server. Can I have a server to do this? You just say, give me a server, and that costs a few pennies. So when we build our software, that's done in the cloud. It's not done on the same server as the Jenkins. It's done on a cloudy server. And you just say, give me a new server, and I'm going to be building stuff today. Which is useful, of course, because a lot of those 200 applications, they'll get released every 6 months periodically and regularly. And suddenly you've got 200 things to build on a single day. And so it's really useful to be able to have cloud computing. Just say, yeah, let's build it all. And we use Docker because that gives us a recreatable build environment, gives us an API, so we can write programs that talk to it to work out what's going on in the build, and we can update it quickly. So if the frameworks get updated, then our Docker images can get updated really easily and trivially. We had to set up a mirror network, files.kde.org, so that has all the output from us, and that has the archive and the ISOs that you can download, and that's been added in. That uses MirrorBrain, which is a set of programs to copy stuff across various different servers, but we could always do some more servers there. So if you've got lots of bandwidth and servers, come along and join our mirror network. And we added a new Git server to host all the packaging. We didn't want to put it on the same one as the KDE server because that would it would double the number of archives, and it would make it quite unwieldy, whereas they've got the same access rights as the rest of the KDE server. So everyone who has contributed to KDE in a way can now contribute to the packaging of their own applications. So for the first time, if you write an application, you can work out how it's built and how it's compiled. And you can fix that when there are problems. And that's been really useful for the KDE developers. And we have installable ISOs. Of course, you need to have a way to install this. So we use Ubuntu LTS as the base system. And that's a system that we're familiar with because I've worked with it for many years. It's very popular. And well, I'm not making packages for it anymore, so there's a bit of a gap in the market. And it updates every 2 years, but there's enough backports in it that it stays relevant for those 2 years. And we ship with this, it's deliberately minimal installable ISO. So it has KDE Plasma, the desktop on it, and it's got a few applications that our visual design group selected that work particularly well with it. Firefox and VLC, Dolphin File Manager, Octave to look at PDFs, but that's all, because most of our users will be clever enough to know if they need a particular application, they can just install it. And we spent quite a lot of time working on the software installer, which is called Discover. So that's got a sensible, modern user interface, and it looks like an app store, the same as everything else, and it can get software from multiple different sources. And we build everything 4 times, so 4 different editions to handle the different use cases that we want to cover. So the user edition, that automatically grabs the tarballs from releases. So when KDE software gets released, it gets uploaded to download.kde.org, and our Jenkins will watch that and go, there's a new release, and it'll build it instantly, and you can use it within a few minutes, a few hours typically. So that's the user edition, and there's a user LTS edition, which has the long-term support edition of Plasma, the desktop. So that won't get new features, but it'll get bug fixes for the next 3 years, and I'm the release manager for Plasma, the desktop. So that LTS edition has a known release cycle that I happen to make, and then when I happen to make a release, I change my hat and I make sure that the Neon servers are building it and that everything's working and that it's available as quickly as it can be. And then we've got developer editions, because a big use case with our software is for developers who want to get the latest stuff straight out of Git, out of 2 versions of Git, the stable release stable branch, or we make releases from the unstable branch that you get, that you add the new features to. And that means that if a user reports a bug, and they go, aye, but I'm running the distro from a year ago, you can go, well, install the new stuff, and this is the way you can trivially install the new stuff, and you can test is the bug still there, and if it is still there, okay, I've made a fix for it, and the fix builds instantly on our servers. Can you test that the fix solves your problem? So while KDE has often shipped its software directly to users, jQuery puts it in Android, we've got images, we had a tablet user interface, and we made reference images for that. That Krita, the painting application, is available in the Steam store, which is really nice, and they get quite a lot of users from that. Doing it with continuous delivery is new, and I don't know of any comparable project that actually does it within Linux desktops, which is really surprising considering you start on the internet. Why is the techniques not kept up with modern practices? So in Plasma, in free software, you're nobody if you don't have somebody forking a project and making their own project out of it. So we've got Plasma Mobile, which is a distro itself, and they moved to based on our packages and our technology, and they've got their own continuous integration Jenkins server that builds everything, but it does it on ARM, and it does it on ARM cloud computers, of course. But there's a lot of shared work there, and for the most part, we don't deviate in what we build. And there's a distro called Maui that also is based on Neon and has its own customizations for its own use cases, its own users, and it's a lot more flashy. And if you like different widget styles, then maybe that's a better option. We also updated the website. With Neon, of course, we had to have new project, new website, so we made sure it was a nice, shiny HTML5 theme that was responsive and worked on mobile phones, that looked modern. And following that, KDE in general, whose website hadn't been updated for literally a decade, has copied our theme and copied our look and feel, so that now has a nice, responsive, shiny website. So we're spreading the the updates and the goodness throughout not just our software offering, but our marketing offering as well. For example, social media. KDE used social media relatively little, or certainly I used it relatively little in my work, which is surprising because we come from the internet. Surely that's where people expect to go in the internet, but we're happy using our IRC channels and mailing lists, even though this isn't very accessible for most people. So for Neon, our news comes out on social media channels, and there's support forums on the other relevant channels, and that's where our users are. So that's given us a lot of use. One other project that we had to add, actually we had to add quite a few projects because we realized that for the first time we're shipping KDE software directly to the users on the desktop, and suddenly there's all these gaps that we have to fill in. So we had a wee project called Boot Up to Shut Down. So the splash screen, the Plymouth splash screen, which Linux shows when you first boot up, we had to make a new theme for that. The grub bootloader, which is shown before you boot up, selecting your operating system, we had to make a theme for that to make sure that worked well. The boot up splash screen, again, once it gets into X, that's a different technology, so we had to make a theme for that. Just writing your installable image onto a USB disk, there wasn't a tool that easily did that, which is quite something that we were missing, but also something that surprisingly that other distros miss as well. So that's what I've been working on for the last week, and then we've worked with Rosa, which is a Russian company, and this is now a KDE project, so that's lovely. We can bring it into the project, and it's good code, but it ran as root, for example. So that's always a bad practice, running your graphical applications as root. Who knows what security things they could do? So I've been using one of the KDE frameworks called KAuth, which isolates the part that needs to be run as root into a separate binary, and the application can now run as a proper application, not running as the user, running as the user. And there's a good example of collaboration between, there's a commercial company in Russia. They had quite a nice solution, but not quite as smooth as it could be, given the advice of a larger, of people with different experiences, and using the collaboration of the KDE community, we're able to do that. So more of our practices, we didn't sign our code. Even though we were born in the internet, you kind of expect everything to be signed. So we implemented end-to-end signing of our code, from the Git signature to the releases, which now have GPG signatures, to the ISOs, which are signed as well, to the archives, which are signed as well. And this is quite a useful step. It's the sort of thing that nobody cares about until there's a big screw up, and you go, why didn't you do that? But this is important for all our uses. So one of the projects that's older than KDE is X, which is the graphical layer, and that's 30, 40 years old, goodness knows how long. That's been going on, and it's showing its age. So there's now a movement to replace that with a project called Wayland, and as part of Neon, we've made some images that boot up straight into Wayland, and we're going to be changing the developer edition to run straight into Wayland. Once the login manager can successfully detect, if that doesn't work, revert back to X. So it should be a seamless transition to users, but a much needed update to technology. So occasionally install tracking gets talked about in KDE, and nobody particularly implements it because then there's lots of privacy worries. But it would be really useful to know how many users we had and where they were. So I added that. Who wants to guess how many users we have over the last year? Competition.
We win the laptop.
You don't win a laptop. Any guesses?
No one opted into the install track.
No, everyone did. Maybe. So we have total number of machine IDs, 89,000. So 89,000 users over the last year, which is it good? I think it is good. I don't know. Nobody knows because these figures aren't released from any other distro anywhere else. And even I'm slightly reluctant to release it just now because I haven't quite worked out what it means and what's the exact difference between machine IDs and unique machine IDs there. But that's a really pleasing number, whatever it is. No particular metrics. Top 3 countries for KDE Plasma. Who wants to guess what the top 3 countries are? Germany, yeah. Brazil? China? It is Germany, you're right. The history of KDE started in Germany, very strong installs there, government support. But number 2, United States. So as developers, we don't have that many developers in the United States, certainly some, but not as many as in other countries. But a good number of our users are there. Next is Russia. So there's a surprise. As developers, we rarely meet Russian people online in our conversations at our conferences, but turns out they're one of our main users. And Brazil is there at number 4, UK at number 5. Well, UK, I mean. Sorry? Oh, that's other, so that's unclassified, so yeah, so the GeoIP couldn't work it out or something. So freedom is really important in our source code. And in the name of this conference, and it allows a kind of collaboration that allows KDE and all the software that we use. But occasionally there are companies that try to restrict that, and they add their own restrictions, and they should be heavily criticized when they do that. And I spend a lot of time reviewing the licenses to make sure they're compliant. And so when we ship an ISO with Neon, we have to ship it with the source code as well. And that's quite a lot of faff. That's 2 gigabytes rather than 1 gigabyte alone for the ISO. But it's important and vital, and I'll be giving a lightning talk about that tomorrow. So this is great, and you can install it as an operating system. But a lot of people don't want to reinstall their operating system because that's quite a lot of effort. So this application runs as a normal application. Looks like a normal application. You can. There's an interesting feature where it looks in that direction, but you can access your files as a normal file. But it runs in a container. So it's a new packaging format called Snappy, and there's another one called Flatpak, which runs our applications in a container, and that will run it on any Linux distro. So you don't, for the first time now, you don't need to go, but here, this package is what I want, but it's for Debian and I'm running Ubuntu or something. You can just download the application and you can run it as a standalone application, and it will run on any distro. So KDE Neon is all about getting our software to users in more direct ways than has previously been done with our offerings. And one of those ways is Docker images. So Docker, of course, very popular on the server. If you want to fire up a WordPress image, you can just install Docker and voila, there's WordPress running. But why not on the desktop? So every night I got Docker to download our packages, make a Docker image. And so you can do Docker pull, Docker run, and it will give you an isolated, contained version of KDE software. In this case, the full Plasma desktop. And it's pretty instant on, unlike virtual machines, which take a time to boot up and they take an awful lot of memory. This is just another process that's running. And you can treat it like anything else. So if you're running the stable user edition, but you want to test the developer edition because you think there's a bug fix, or you want to check that your bug still exists there and needs fixed, you can just run Docker pull, and you can run that command, and you can run either as a desktop in a window here, or you can run just a standalone application. And it's a new, easy way to get hold of KDE software. So the press coverage has been pretty good for this. We've got some lovely headlines. Maybe not so much from this guy, but it turns out he's a social media marketing manager for a company called SUSE. I'm not quite sure how these people get their jobs, yeah. But other than that, it's a real pleasure, 10 minutes, to run the Twitter feed and see what people are saying about it. And every day I get to wake up and I get to read the Twitter feed, and somebody says, oh, I've installed KDE Neon, and I'm a convert. I'm changing over to Linux, or I'm changing over to your desktop. And that feedback's really good. And these new ways that we've got of delivering our software directly to the users shortens the feedback loop, makes it a lot slicker process. Where's my mouse gone? Oh, I think it's the monitors on that side. So it makes it a lot slicker process, and we haven't taken over the world yet, but we're changing the way the software is developed, and this can apply to desktop projects like our stuff, but it can apply to any free software project. Make sure you use those DevOpsy techniques, continuous integration, continuous deployment, and hopefully can get into the hands of the more technical users, the people who can install Docker images without a problem. But you still can't just buy KDE software from a shop and go, there we go, until today. So I'm announcing the KDE Slimbook. We announced it actually back at FOSDEM. It's been on pre-order since February. We partnered with a company in Spain, 101, who are in Valencia. And they make these laptops, which if you buy, you just know that they work. You just know that they've been tested by the people who make the software. And out of the factory door, onto my doorstep on Monday, arrived this box, which is the first one that came out of the door, out of the factory. I've not opened the box. This is very scary. It may not work. What do you think's inside?
I wanted that to work.
Basically, bananas and an apple. Which will make Mark happy.
So let's have a look inside and see what it is. Firstly, really nice slick box. Love the presentation. So you get some instructions inside. It says 101 Slimbook. Slimbook's the company. Slimbook's the model, rather. 101 is the company that we're partnering with. And this is the KDE Slimbook, and this tells us how to turn the laptop on. Always useful. So we sheltered it inside here. We have power cable, always useful. Brexit adapter for those who don't want to work with the rest. Transformer, don't want to zap it with 200 volts. And inside this, a nice looking shiny laptop. It's got the KDE logo here, 101 logo here. It's very thin profile, Ultrabook. Comes with USB 3. Can't fit in an Ethernet adapter into an Ultrabook. A lot of Ultrabooks don't have an Ethernet network, but this has a thin Ethernet, and you've got an adapter to turn it into normal Ethernet. Microphone and headphone. Somewhere over here. HDMI output. Another USB, and the power supply. So, will it work? What do you think? Oh, something's happening. Select your operating system. Neon. Sounds good to me. KDE Neon 593. The version number we show there is the same version number as Plasma gets released with, because that's our flagship product. And it boots up into the OEM installer here. So this is the normal installer that we use will partition your hard disk. That's already all been done. This just does the user account setup. So we want it to be in English. Let's not connect to network just now. Let's say we want to be somewhere near London. Oh, the Isle of Man, that'll do. We want a UK keyboard, and this is, you can order it with whatever keyboard you want. So this has got a nice pound symbol there. Importantly, it's got a Tux logo here on this key, which I'm sure you'll agree is a rather killer feature to have that alongside your Microsofty logo. Who are you? Let me set up an account. Log in automatically. So that should be it. Setting up now. Setting up the user account. Configuring the keyboard. You can order these now on KDE Neon website. That'll take you to the Slimbook website. They cost €729 for the cheapest one, up to €1,200 for this more expensive model, which has a faster processor. You can customize whatever hard disk size, memory size you want. Boots up into Plasma. So for the first time, you can buy a computer that runs KDE Plasma by default, and you can give that to all your non-technical friends and tell them, have a bit of freedom. And they'll love you for it. Thank you. Any questions? What's the time? Got 5 minutes or so. Well, the spec, as I say, you can customize it, so choose the RAM and scroll down. It comes with an i5 or an i7 processor, and you can choose keyboard and so forth.
Yes, I was doing exactly. I'm sure everybody else was doing the same thing, just looking at the prices, which is.
The first thing, yes.
I thought you might want to see them on the big screen.
And in case you need that converted into pounds, it's about £849 for that model as well.
It'll be 900 next week.
Yeah. So buy it quick before Theresa May opens her mouth again. Any questions? Here's a question.
So, you've been talking about doing the dynamic delivery and so on your Neon distro, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Are users on other distros, Ubuntu, SUSE, whatever, they're stuck with the same static model as always and wait for your distro to package a new version?
So can users on other distros? Of course, as soon as we set this up and we're using Ubuntu LTS as the base, we've got people saying, oh, can you do it for Debian and SUSE and Red Hat? And that's impractical. We can't do it for every combination of every version of every different distro. So at the moment, yes, you're stuck on using that base. But the snappy packages, we also build those from the same KDE Neon continuous integration. And they're not ready yet to give to people, but if you know where the URL is, you can use them, and you can just run it. Download the Snappy package, use Snappy to install it, which is maybe worth. No, my.
Click the source back. If you press source, it stops when
Well, it's a loopback mounted container. It includes all the environment that the application needs in that container, but it's sensibly layered, so there's the OS layer, so you don't have to download everything 5 different times. So it's mounted onto here. Runs Snap Ktubeling is that application, and there's another one. And so you will be able to download those and run it on any distro, like any package. And so that will hopefully finally give us a way to get our software out to users for the first time properly. Any other questions? So this will be, I'll show it out on the stall out there after this. You can have a look, have a feel of it. And if you order one today, then you get a free tortilla because it comes from Spain. Thank you. Maybe if I buy one, yeah.
It's Pepper's bar if you want to go buy
Right,
it.
exactly.
Are there any other questions? Excellent. Thank you.